All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little Golden State Warrior video as Draymond Green has been suspended again. We'll talk about it. But first, Pig and a Pickle, two locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Thanks to them for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And of course, sponsoring this video tonight, Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. Underdog Fantasy, a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Draymond Green just cannot get out of his own way. Warriors star power forward Draymond Green suspended indefinitely for striking Suns center Yusuf Nurkic in the team's 119-116 loss yesterday. Woj had the story, of course, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, who's just a force of nature. He first reported the news, as did Shams of The Athletic, Shams Charania. And the stadium, I guess, reported as well that Green's expected to receive counseling as part of the conditions for him to be able to return to the court. So uh, Draymond, Dunleavy, and Rich Paul, who's Draymond's agent from Clutch Sports, are expected to meet on Thursday to start discussing a path of counseling and help for Green going forward. So the league didn't want to put a specific number on the suspension, but allow Green to take time to as much time as he needs to deal with the challenges he's facing. So they're putting this on Draymond Green like he's got real problems. I think he's got some. All right, let's talk a little more about what happened here. But one other detail, Draymond's expected to receive counseling and work with the Warriors and the NBA while being suspended, and he has to meet certain criteria before he's going to be allowed to return to play. So we don't know if it's a 5 game, 10 game, 15 game, if he'll play at all this year. I mean, we just don't know. It's they're going to see what the criterion is moving forward. Okay, what was my read on this thing? My read, I watched the game. I thought Nurkic flopped on the foul against Saric. I thought Nurkic also flopped on a play that resulted in a cheap, unfair foul for Jonathan Kuminga. And I think Draymond was just kind of incensed by it. And what he did is just, I mean, what can you say? It's pure violence. I mean, there's no way you can get away with that. It was not only was it violent to the head, it was almost like an NFL head slap, and then there was also a follow through, and it's just not a basketball play. If a guy's leaning on your right hip, you might lean forward and try to draw the foul like he shoved you from behind, but you're not going to wheel around and swing your arms and you had no control of your arms. You're a professional athlete. We're supposed to believe that you had no control of your arms there. I mean, it's just like we know what happened. I mean, he can spin it and say whatever he wants to say. Um, he's going to get, I would say, 10 games or more. And the league's going to try to send a message here. And it really begs the bigger question is where's this going for Golden State? Warriors have this guy under contract for 4 more years. I'm a huge Draymond guy, but this crosses the line. I mean, this is where the line is drawn right here. This was not a basketball play. It was incredibly violent. It was very selfish. It takes him away from his team when his team needs him a lot. They might have won last night's game if he doesn't get thrown out. Instead, he gets thrown out. They lose that game. Now they're going to play shorthanded for 2 more weeks. Um, I, you know, and this is just on the heels of the Gobert, headlock and dragged him 6 feet in a headlock. Another real violent deal. Draymond unfortunately is never going to get the benefit of the doubt again. So if he's waiting for it, he ought not to, because he's never going to get that benefit of the doubt, nor should he at this point. If you have priors, it's gonna be a situation that you're going to be suspended for a longer period of time because they're trying to send a message. But there's a bigger issue here, and it doesn't just involve Draymond. It's like Steph is clearly going to have a long-term run. I would say Steph has got a lot of future left, just based on how he's playing and the way he seems to be aging. Klay Thompson, who they just supposedly offered 2 years and $50 million to, um, it doesn't seem like he's going to be a lifetime Warrior if he wants to play more than a year or two. We'll see. They're saying all the right things. Draymond Green, I thought was going to be a lifetime Warrior, but now I'm starting to wonder if that's a reality. And I wonder if you ask Steph Curry right now, you want to win a title or do you want to go out with your guys? Because there may not be a way to do both. How do the Warriors get appreciably better and start to match up with the best teams in the league if they don't somehow make some significant moves? And you got an aging Curry and age. I mean, everybody's aging, but you know what I'm saying. You got guys in the tail end of their career, and Clay is. What does Clay have left? Two, 3 good years. He's not playing very well right now. Green, are you going to the finish line? Are you going to the finish line with Green? Are you going to the finish line with Clay? And it's really up to Steph Curry. I think if I were the Warriors, I would absolutely listen to offers for everybody outside of Steph, obviously. I would listen to offers because why not? Tell everybody that you're open for business. You want to talk about Kuminga, you want to talk about Moody, you want to talk about Draymond, you want to talk about Clay, you want to talk about Wiggins, you want to talk about Looney, you want to talk about any of these guys, I'm all ears. I think they got to consider all options at this point. And as far as Draymond goes, it just had that vibe like everybody like this time was different. And I know that sounds dramatic because he's had so many issues, but he was just so recently warned. And now it's like it just feels like like I don't know, like he's losing support, maybe even from Steph. Steph had a look on his face of like disgust. He's never gonna he's never gonna, stab his guy in the back publicly, but you kind of wonder where he's at with all these Draymond antics. I mean, at this point, it just you got 4 years of this. I don't know if the Warriors want to go forward with 4 years of this. And then on the other side of things, he is still an integral part of championship core of basketball. And it's like, are you going to move him on to another team? There will be teams out there that are going to contend for a title that would gladly take Draymond Green for all the things he contributes. So it's not like they can't move him if they decide they wanted to move him. They could move him. There are teams that would take him. Absolutely. Um, but at this point, you wonder. I kind of assumed Draymond was going to the finish line with the Warriors, but at this point, I'm starting to wonder. I don't necessarily see it happening, and I'd say he has to get at least 10 games. And then the bigger issue is where are the Warriors going? Got the trade deadline coming. Lots of talk about Kuminga and Moody being moved. I think Kuminga and Moody need to play. I want to see more Pajemski. I want to see more Trace Jackson Davis. I'd like to see the bench start and the starters sit on the bench. I mean, literally flip the thing except for Steph, and I'd be totally fine with that. That might be their best foot forward right now. But that's going to require Klay Thompson going to the bench. And I don't know that Steve Kerr can make that move and not lose Clay altogether. Clay's got such a big ego. He couldn't deal with coming off the bench. Right now, based on what I've seen, I'd love to see the bench start. More minutes for Moody, Kuminga, Pajemski, Trace Jackson Davis. I'm not seeing it from Looney or from Wiggins or from Clay. And what's going on with Draymond is just truly at this point, um, you know, I mean, it's crossed the line. It's absolutely crossed the line. And I've been Draymond's biggest supporter, but this time, I mean, it was violent, man. It was basically a head slap to Nurkic, non-basketball play, right in the middle of a game that your team had to have in a stretch where your team has to get hot, and you kind of put yourself over it, lose your temper. And I really do think it was about those flops earlier in the game from Nurkic. Draymond would never admit that because I would admit that the whole thing was premeditated. But if you go watch the early portion of that game, he flopped bad against Saric, drew the foul, flopped bad against Kuminga, drew the foul, and probably had a couple other plays like that I didn't even notice in the game. Draymond had enough, and he threw a violent, arm at him basically, and just not head slapped him in the side of the head. It's not basketball. So unfortunately, the league's going to have to get involved, and I bet you he misses a bunch of games. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him until February. I mean, he might miss a ton of games. He could miss 15 games. We'll see. We'll see. Another hit to the Warriors' chances of making the playoffs in the West. And Draymond Green, the bigger story is where does it go from here? And if you're Joe Lacob, do you just keep going forward with this guy and just looking the other way like you have up to this point? He's literally cost you a title in the past. Or do you actually say, you know what? That's kind of enough. Steph, I know you love him, but we're moving on. It's a conversation that has to be had. After last night, I think it's a fair conversation to have. All right. Appreciate all you guys. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug, and they will match you in your first $100. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.